This might be the first time I've ever heard of an unexplained creature allegedly causing an entire small town to evacuate because of ongoing, escalating attacks. The story was sent to me under the title, "You're Not Going to Believe This," from someone calling themselves Aspect 23. And honestly, it's disturbing. It tells of a Skinwalker-like entity that appeared randomly in a small, unnamed town. A police officer recounts his encounters with the creature and how everything led up to a tragic, unforgettable climax. This is the story of the Skinwalker that forced a town to evacuate. I was a deputy sheriff in a small town in northern Arizona. The year was 2003. The population was maybe 600, quiet, peaceful, the kind of place where nothing ever really happened. I'd taken the job after years working in Phoenix. My wife wanted our daughter somewhere safer, somewhere quiet. So we moved to this little town. It seemed perfect. I'm not using the real name of the town, by the way. If you're from northern Arizona, you might figure it out from the details. But I'm not going to make it easy. Some of the people involved still live there, and they don't want this brought back up. I left law enforcement in 2004, and I've kept quiet about this for over 20 years. The first call came on September 23rd. A woman named Janet Holloway, who lived on Juniper Road, reported someone looking into her windows at night. It happened twice. She said she saw a face at her kitchen window around 9:30 p.m. Whoever it was had to be standing on something, or they were very tall. She couldn't make out the features clearly, but she said the proportions seemed off. That was the exact word she used. I went out there to check. I found a few scuff marks under the window, but nothing clear. The ground was hard and rocky. I'm 6'1", and even on my tiptoes, I could barely see through that window. I told her to keep her lights on and to call again if it happened. 2 more calls came that same week. Mr. Rodriguez said someone had been outside his bedroom window at 2 a.m., moving strangely. He thought maybe they were on drugs. His dog barked all night and refused to go outside until sunrise. Then there were the Bartleys. Same story. A tall figure, strange proportions, standing by their window. Sheriff Dave and I figured it might be local kids fooling around, or maybe a drifter high on something. We put out a notice for folks to lock their doors and stay alert. Usually, in a small town, 1 sighting turns into 10 as word spreads. But this time, it didn't fade away. A few weeks later, it escalated. Livestock killings. First were Tom Dillon's chickens, a dozen torn apart in one night. The wire on his coop was shredded like paper. Then Barbara Fremont's goat. Same thing. Killed but not eaten. By the end of the month, there had been nearly a dozen attacks. People started sitting outside with rifles, taking turns on watch. One man, Bill, guarded his coop for 3 nights straight. The one night he went back inside to rest, something got all 15 of his birds. It was like it knew, like it had been waiting for him to let his guard down. The sightings continued, not just at windows anymore. People reported it, standing at the edge of yards, out by the tree line, even in the middle of the road. A man named Brandon saw it around 3:30 a.m. He said it just stood there in his lane, watching him as he swerved to avoid it. Brandon was a level-headed guy, not one for tall tales. He described it as 7 feet tall, too thin, and deeply unsettling to look at. Everyone described the same thing. Very tall, oddly proportioned, moving like it wasn't quite human. No one ever got a clear look at its face. It was always too dark, too far, or they were too afraid to stare. I still thought it was a person, maybe on drugs, maybe mentally unstable, hiding in the hills. There are plenty of places to disappear out there. I wasn't ready to believe it was anything else, until the night that changed everything. Patricia Ames called 911 around midnight. I was off duty, but I had the scanner on, and something about her voice made me grab my keys and head out anyway. She said someone was outside her house, calling her name, in her husband's voice. "Trish, come outside. Trish, I need you out here." She almost went. That's what terrified her most, that she almost opened the door. It sounded exactly like her husband, Dan. Same tone, same rhythm. She was half asleep and thought he'd gone outside for something, but then she rolled over, and there was Dan, asleep right next to her. Then the voice called again. "Trish, why won't you come outside? I need you." It was coming from right outside their bedroom window. She woke Dan up, and now he heard it too. His own voice calling his wife's name from outside. Dan grabbed his rifle, and I got the call a few minutes later. When I arrived, every light in their house was on. Dan was on the porch, trembling, rifle in hand. He's a big guy, construction worker, former military, not someone who scares easily. But that night, he was shaking. Inside, Patricia sat with their 2 kids, terrified. She kept saying it knew his voice, exactly his voice. How did it know? Why was it so close? I searched the property with my flashlight. Dan followed close behind. Their house backed up to open land and hills, a lot of places to hide. Under their bedroom window, I found footprints, barefoot, human-shaped, but not right. They were too long, around 14 or 15 inches from heel to toe. I wear a size 11 boot, and these made mine look small. The stride was strange too. The steps were spaced far apart, like whatever made them had extremely long legs. We tried to make plaster casts, but the ground was too rocky. They broke as soon as I lifted them. We followed the prints for about 50 yards into the hills until they just stopped. Not faded, not hard to see, just stopped in the middle of a flat patch of dirt. It was as if whatever made them had simply lifted off the ground and disappeared. Dan stared at the last print in silence before whispering, "What the hell is going on?" But I didn't have an answer for him. We went back to the house. I told them to keep the lights on, stay inside, and we'd have patrol cars swing by every hour. I made sure to tell them to lock their doors, maybe even stay with family for a few days if they were too shaken up. Patricia started crying then, and Dan put his arm around her. That report was one of the hardest I ever had to write. I documented exactly what I'd seen, the prints, the measurements, the photos, and what they'd said about the voice. The next morning, Sheriff Dave looked over the report. He didn't say much, just nodded slowly and filed it away. We were out of our depth, and we both knew it. This wasn't normal police work. This wasn't something they taught us at the academy. We didn't sign up for any X-Files kind of nonsense. By mid-November, even the schools were having problems. The elementary and middle school shared one building, about 150 kids total. Normally, children walked to and from class every day. But that month, everything changed. Parents started picking up their kids every single afternoon. The parking lot was jam-packed by 3 p.m. Even the kids who lived just 2 blocks away were getting rides home. One Saturday, I ran into Miss Herrera, my daughter Emily's 6th grade teacher, at the grocery store. She told me the kids were scared, really scared. They were telling stories in class, whispering about things they'd seen outside their windows or even on the playground during recess. The teachers were scared too. You could see it in their eyes. Parents were calling the school every day, asking what was being done to protect their children. The principal eventually called an emergency meeting with Dave and me. He wanted to know, should they close the school? Were the kids in danger? We didn't know how to answer that. We told him to keep the children inside during recess, lock the doors, and only release them when their parents arrived. Even as I said it, I knew it wasn't enough. My daughter Emily was 13, 8th grade. Normally she couldn't stop talking at dinner, but that month she went quiet. Wouldn't talk about school. Wouldn't talk about what was going on. My wife Carol said she wasn't sleeping well. I'd hear her up at 2 a.m. watching TV, too afraid to be alone in her room. The sightings were happening almost nightly now, not just on the outskirts, but in town, between houses, behind stores, even in parking lots. Someone saw it standing on the church roof. And then there started to be more than one. People reported seeing 2 figures together, sometimes 3, walking along the ridge at dusk. Then came the teenagers. It was around November 16th or 17th. 5 kids went out to their usual hangout spot, a clearing about 2 miles outside town. It was the same old back road where they'd light bonfires, drink beer, and talk. Everyone knew about it. The parents didn't approve, but as long as nobody drove drunk, they looked the other way. One of them was a girl named Sarah, 16, a junior. Her dad worked at the hardware store. They were a good family. That night, the group drove out in Sarah's car around 9 p.m. By 11 or 11:30, 4 of them came running back to town on foot. They'd left everything: Sarah's car, their bags, their jackets, everything. Their clothes were torn. One boy's face was cut up from running through the brush in the dark. These kids were terrified. Not drunk scared, not prank scared. They were bone-deep terrified. One girl was shaking so badly she started throwing up in the station parking lot. The night dispatcher called me, and I got there within 5 minutes. I took their statements. They said something had chased them. They'd been sitting around the fire, talking, normal stuff. Then, around 11, they heard movement in the trees, branches snapping, something circling them. They figured it was deer or elk, so they called out, tried to scare it off. But it didn't leave. It just kept moving around them, just beyond the firelight. And then they saw it, standing at the edge of the clearing. Tall, thin, watching. All 4 who made it back told the same story. One kid yelled at it, threw a bottle in its direction, and that's when it stepped forward. Just 1 step, enough for the firelight to hit it. And that was enough. They all ran. One boy, Jake, was at the back of the group. He said he could hear it chasing them, crashing through the brush, but moving too fast. Faster than an Olympic sprinter, he told me. Sometimes it sounded like it was on all 4s, like a wild animal, then upright again. The noises it made, he couldn't describe them, just said they weren't right. But the worst part? Sarah wasn't with them. We launched a search immediately, around 1 a.m. It was cold that night, in the 30s. We had 20 volunteers with flashlights combing the woods, calling her name. By 2 a.m., we found the bonfire site. The fire was still smouldering. Sarah's car doors were open. keys still in the ignition. Their stuff was scattered everywhere. Beer cans, blankets, someone's jacket. We found her shoes, but no Sarah. We searched all night, covered nearly 3 miles in every direction. Nothing. The sun came up around 6:30. Sheriff Dave called in the state police for a wider search. I was running on coffee and adrenaline, but I couldn't stop. We had to find her. And then, around 8 a.m., we did. Sarah was walking along Highway 89, 5 miles from the clearing, still in her jeans and hoodie, barefoot. Her shoes, remember, were back at the camp. Her feet were torn and bleeding from the asphalt and rocks. A truck driver had spotted her and called it in. When we pulled up beside her, she didn't react, just kept walking, staring straight ahead. We called her name. Nothing. I got out, walked up to her, said, "Sarah, honey, it's okay. You're safe now." She didn't respond, just walked past me like I wasn't even there. Her eyes were open, but it was like no one was home. I gently took her arm. She stopped walking, but still didn't look at me. We got her into the car and drove straight to the clinic. Dr. Matthews was waiting. He examined her while her parents rushed in. They'd been up all night searching with us. She had no injuries besides her feet, no signs of assault, no drugs in her system except a trace of alcohol from earlier. But she still wouldn't talk, wouldn't respond, not to doctors, not to her parents, not to anyone. Her mother cried, begging, "Baby, please say something, please." Her father just stood there, hand on her shoulder, eyes hollow. I'll never forget that. They kept Sarah in the hospital for 3 days, ran every test they could. Physically, she was fine, but mentally, she was gone. They called it a dissociative state, a trauma response, but she didn't come out of it. She had come back, but something inside her hadn't. Her mum called me twice that week, asking if we'd found anything else, if maybe we'd missed something. She wanted to know if we'd arrested anyone yet. I had to tell her no. We didn't know where Sarah had been those missing hours, or what she'd seen. Sarah couldn't or wouldn't tell us. Years later, I heard she eventually moved to California, started a new life. She talks now, but still never about that night. Whatever happened out there, she's kept it locked away. That hit me hard. My daughter Emily was close to her age, just a few years younger. They went to the same school. After Sarah came back and everyone saw how not okay she was, Emily started having nightmares. She'd wake up screaming, crying for me not to go to work at night. I tried to explain that my job was to protect people, to keep everyone safe. But I was scared too. I just couldn't let her see it. So I hugged her, told her it would be okay, told her I'd always come home. And every night, I'd go back out into those dark streets, patrolling, searching, for something I didn't understand, something you can't fight. By Thanksgiving, the town was unrecognizable. 1/3 of the kids were out of school. Some homeschooled full-time. The grocery store was empty at night. The diner and the bars all closed early. Nobody wanted to be outside after dark. We held a town meeting right before Thanksgiving, and it was chaos. People were shouting at the mayor, at Dave, at me, demanding answers we didn't have, demanding action. But what could we do? We'd called the state police. They sent detectives. They stayed a week, interviewed people, reviewed evidence, and found nothing new. No explanations, no suspects, nothing. One man shouted that we should form armed patrols. Civilians taking shifts. Another said, "Burn the hills, smoke it out." Someone else yelled, "Call in the National Guard." It was panic, pure panic, and I understood, because I felt it too. But all I could do was stand there next to Dave and the mayor, pretending I had it under control, when I absolutely did not. The mayor called everyone he could, the state, the governor's office, begging for help, for resources, for anything. We got sympathy, but not much else. And really, what were they supposed to send? How do you ask for help with this? A tall figure, maybe multiple figures, that kills animals, but doesn't eat them, that mimics voices perfectly, that tries to lure people from their homes, that runs on all fours, and leaves footprints that vanish into thin air. Who do you call for that? By late November, sightings were happening every single night. The hardware store sold out of ammunition. Twice. They sold out of locks and deadbolts too. And the Navajo families in town, they wouldn't talk about it. We had about 30 people from the reservation living here for work. Good people. I'd known them for years, but when I asked about it, they shut down. Some quietly packed up and left for home. The ones who stayed kept their families inside and refused to say a word. Finally, one man, Thomas, pulled me aside outside the post office. He looked around, lowered his voice, and said, "Keep your family inside at night. Stop going out after dark, unless you have to, and don't talk to it if you see it." I frowned. "Don't talk to it?" He nodded. "Yeah. Don't say anything. Don't answer it if it talks to you." I asked him what it was. He shook his head. "I can't say its name. I can't tell you, but it's very old and very angry, and it knows you're scared." Then he just walked away. That was it. No explanation, no warning. I went home and told Carol about my conversation with Thomas. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "We need to leave," she said. "We just need to pack up and leave." "Carol, I can't do that. I've got a job here." "What job? You can't even catch it. You can't protect anyone." Her words stung, but she wasn't wrong. I just didn't know what else to do. I was deputy sheriff. This was my town. I couldn't abandon it. Couldn't abandon people. By December, 40, maybe 50 people had moved away. Houses sat empty, businesses closed, drive through town at 6 p.m, sundown already at 5, and it was like a ghost town. Streets empty, windows dark. The few who stayed lit every room inside, huddling behind locked doors until morning. Emily started sleeping on a mattress in our living room every night. Carol stopped arguing about leaving. We were exhausted, terrified. She'd talk about moving back to Phoenix or New Mexico, where her sister lived. I told her maybe after the holidays we'd decide. Maybe it would get better. Neither of us believed it would. Then things got worse. Break-ins while people were home. One woman called 911 early one morning. She'd woken at 3 a.m. to use the bathroom and noticed her kitchen light on. She'd never left it on. She went downstairs and found the back door wide open. Food was on the counter, like someone had made a sandwich and walked away. Nothing stolen. Her purse, cash, TV, all untouched. But her house had been ransacked, books pulled off shelves, cabinets opened, couch cushions flipped. It was like someone had been looking for something, or just enjoying terrorizing her. I went over that afternoon. No signs of forced entry. She was meticulous. I believed her. I did find muddy footprints smeared across the kitchen floor. Couldn't make much out of them. Had to photograph them anyway. "Why would anyone do this?" she asked me. I didn't know. I suggested better locks, and maybe staying with family if she felt unsafe. 2 days later, She moved to Prescott to live with her daughter. Never came back. 3 more break-ins that week. Same pattern. Door left open. Things moved. Sometimes food left out or eaten. Nothing stolen. One man found his closet rifled through. Clothes spread across the bed. Another family had muddy prints in every room. Windows and doors still locked. No explanation. Dave and I started patrolling more, but the town was too big for just the 2 of us. And honestly, I don't think it would have mattered. Whatever this thing was, it didn't care if we were around. Then came Edward. Mid-December. Around 10 p.m, Edward called 911. Elderly man lived alone on the east side, 75 years old. His grandson was Jake, one of the kids from the Sarah incident. Edward's voice was shaking. Someone's in my house, walking around. I locked myself in the bedroom and pushed the dresser against the door. I was there in minutes, Dave right behind me. We went in, weapons drawn, flashlights on, front door wide open. Cold December air blowing in. House dark except for a faint light upstairs. "Please, anyone in here? Make yourself known," Dave called. No sound, no movement. We cleared the first floor. Living room, kitchen, bathroom. Nobody. But the muddy prints were everywhere. Long feet, wide stride, some on all fours. Exactly what we'd been seeing in other homes. "Upstairs," Dave said, gesturing. We went slowly. Edward's bedroom door was closed, dresser wedged from the inside. "Edward, it's Sheriff Dave and Deputy." "We're coming in," I called. Edward struggled but opened the door. Baseball bat in hand, hands shaking. "It's down there," he whispered, walking through my things, opening cabinets, past my door twice. Breathing. We searched every inch. Closets, under beds, attic. Nothing. But the prints. Every single one exactly where Edward said they'd be. Edward packed that night. Son drove him home from Flagstaff. In January, he put the house up for sale. It sat empty for years. Nobody wanted it. More incidents followed, families barricading themselves in rooms while footsteps echoed downstairs. A woman hearing doors open and close at 2 a.m, only to find wet footprints on the floor, no one else there. Week by week, families moved out. School down to 80 kids from 150. The diner closed early. We called the state police again. 4 men from Phoenix helped investigate. Command post at the station. Dogs brought in to track prints. The dogs wouldn't follow. They'd stop, sit, whine. Couldn't go further. Detective Rich pulled me aside. "I've been a cop 23 years. Seen a lot. Never anything like this. Reports, prints, witness statements. It's nonsensical." "What do you think it is?" I asked. "I wish I knew. But it's real. Something has to be done." They stayed a week. Found nothing new. Before leaving, Rich warned me, "Protect your family. This isn't safe." Little did I know. He was right. December 18th, 2 a.m, silent alarm at the hardware store. Could have been anything, mice, temperature shifts, but we respond anyway. I drove over, expecting nothing. Store dark, doors locked, parking lot quiet. Grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. Cold, mid-20s, breath fogged, and then I saw it. At the far end of the lot, 70, maybe 80 feet away, near the dirt at the pavement's edge. Tall. Too tall. Its proportions wrong. Limbs and head didn't match a human body. Silhouette stark against the faintly lighter sky. My heart skipped. This was it. The thing that had haunted the town. "Hey," I called. "This is private property. Police, identify yourself." It didn't move. Didn't speak. I could feel it watching me. I walked closer, flashlight up, hand on my gun. "Step into the light where I can see you." still motionless, like a badly made humanoid statue. And then I noticed the neck. Thin, far too long, cartoonishly long. The part of it that made fear physical. 40 feet away, it dropped, all fours, folded down like a lawn chair. The way it moved made me nauseous. Then it took off, a superhuman crab crawl, stuttering bounds, covering 100 yards in seconds, and it was gone. Relief washed over me. It didn't come for me. Couldn't. I would have had no chance. I stood there, shaking, legs like jelly, my hand still on the gun, deep, heavy breaths. I had seen it, the thing that shouldn't exist. Back in my car, trying to calm down, picked up the radio. Dispatch, suspicious individual at hardware store, fled on foot into the hills, requesting backup. Dave showed 15 minutes later. I was pale, flashlight in hand. Good Lord, you look like you just watched a massacre. I told him what I saw. He believed me. We searched the area. Prints everywhere, followed them 100 feet. Then, nothing. Disappeared into the rocky ground. Dave crumpled his hat, cursed and said, maybe we should think about evacuation. Official evacuation. On what grounds? Some unknown animal. A person in a costume. The truth, he said. The truth sounds insane, Dave. The truth? A monster. A monster haunting homes. Locked doors don't matter. It goes where it wants. No argument. We both knew he was right. I went home around 6 a.m., sun barely up, Carol making coffee, Emily still asleep. I hadn't told Carol what I saw, not yet. She was scared. Emily was scared, but I waited too long, because 1 week later it came here. Quiet Christmas. Emily got books, a jacket. We tried to make it normal, but tension lingered. Carol barely spoke. She wanted to leave. I kept saying, not yet, just a little longer. That night, 9 p.m., Emily screamed. Pure terror. Blood freezing. I ran upstairs, praying. Carol behind me. Emily in the middle of her room, shaking, pointing at the window. It was there, looking at me, Daddy, right at me. Curtains open, lights on, nothing visible. But I believed her. Instantly. Grabbed my shotgun, flashlight, ran outside. No one there. Yard, trees, sides of house. Empty. But under her window, prints. Fresh. The ones we'd been seeing for months. It had come, done what it wanted, and gone. I went back inside. Emily crying with Carol. Carol looked at me with a fear I'd never seen before. Not anger, not fear, resignation. That's it, Carol said. We're leaving tomorrow. I don't care about your job. I don't care about the house. I don't care about any of it. We're leaving. You're welcome to join us. I wanted to argue, to say we couldn't just abandon the town. I had responsibilities. But looking at Emily, at the fear in her eyes, I couldn't. I couldn't ask either of them to stay here any longer. Okay, we'll go. That night, Emily didn't sleep in her room, didn't sleep on the floor. She slept between us in our bed, like a frightened 7-year-old, all over again. Every light in the house stayed on. I didn't sleep a wink, shotgun by the bed, listening for a sound that never came. The next morning, I met up with Dave. I need some time off, I told him, taking my family away for a while. He didn't argue, said he understood. Half the town was already gone. He just told me to stay safe. We packed that day. Essentials first. Carol had family in Nevada, her brother in Henderson. That would be our temporary refuge. Emily didn't complain about missing school or friends. Quiet, watching the window, as if expecting it to return. We loaded the car around noon. Our neighbour came by. 3 kids of his own. Don't blame you. Thinking about leaving too. This place, it just don't feel safe anymore. I looked at our house. 3 years we'd lived there. Our fresh start turned into an escape from the nightmare. We drove out of town. I didn't look back. Part of me clung to hope. Maybe it would calm down. Maybe we'd be safe somewhere else. Likely it was just guilt speaking. People still stayed behind, some too poor to leave, some stubbornly thinking they could fight it off. In Henderson, Mike had prepped a spare room for us. Explaining everything to him was awkward, surreal, but he didn't question it. He just let us stay. That night, Emily slept in her own room. Seeing her finally able to do that, my chest unclenched a little. Carol cried in bed beside me. "I'm sorry," I said. "It's not your fault. I should have gotten us out sooner. After Sarah disappeared, after the break-ins. But our daughter comes first." Carol nodded. Long silence. "What was it? What did that to our home?" I told her everything, carefully, about the hardware store, about what I saw. She needed to know. I stayed in touch with Dave. Situation only worsened. More break-ins, more sightings. People claimed to see more than one. By late winter, half of those who remained in the fall had gone. Dave's wife begged him to leave. Finally, he did. Weeks later, he called with news. Robert, a veteran and hunter, had shot at it while it tried breaking into his home. Around 2 a.m., footsteps on the porch, door handle rattling. He had extra locks, reinforced doors, shotgun in hand. Through the kitchen window, he saw it, that same towering, unnatural figure. He fired, sent a mass, screamed, not yelled, screamed, then crawled away like something from a nightmare. Blood, dark, almost black, not human. Trail led toward the hills, over rocks, dirt, brush. Dave and deputies followed for 200 yards. Then it stopped. Just vanished. No body. No trace beyond the blood. Dave later said he believed it might be interdimensional. Nothing else made sense. Months later, Dave and his partner, Bill, saw it in broad daylight. Bright sun. Tree line. 300 yards away. Watching them. Standing still. Copy-paste description of what I'd seen months before. Confirmation. It was real. 2 weeks later, Dave and his family evacuated. Within 48 hours, the mayor issued an official emergency evacuation. Official reason, credible threats to public safety during ongoing investigations. I checked back over the years through news, Google, contacts. Nothing. Town dead. Whatever it was, it didn't die with the town. That is my story. You can believe it or not, I don't care anymore. I'm alive. I haven't let some nightmare ruin my life. Human life is fragile. It only takes one thing, one monster-shaped wrench, to turn a small, wholesome town into a ghost town. Be careful. Don't cross into the remnants of a town like that. The last inhabitant might still be watching. Thanks for tuning in to Unexplained Encounters. I've been your host, Darkness Prevails. Till next time, stay safe, stay aware, and remember, the world is far stranger than we give it credit for.